Good day, everybody, and welcome to 20 Minutes on Ice, powered by the Garage Door Sports Network. I'm your host, Ryan, and as always, in the co-host position will be Nick. We've got a great show coming up for you, so let's get right to our opening face-off. Today on 20 Minutes, we are going to be continuing with our division previews. We'll be looking at the East Division. I forget what lame company they're sponsored by. It's probably the Scotiabank East Division.
No, that's North. That's North. It's North. Sorry, Scotiabank is North.
I thought Scotia just had a monopoly in all divisions and helmets and arena naming rights this year. So it's probably, I think it's like Mass Mutual Banking. But we'll look at teams that they're going to succeed, teams that are going to fail, teams that will surprise us. Of course, we will give you our predictions for how those teams will finish in that division. And we'll conclude everything with the randomizer. But joining me for this episode is the man who convinced Wild Wing to jump through a flaming hoop, Nick McVicker. Nick, how you doing?
It didn't take much convincing. He was already wanting to jump. He just needed someone else to confirm it was a good idea. But I'm good, man. Happy to be back, as always, talking a little hockey with you.
Yeah, we need some hockey right now. And actually, that's something I wanted to touch on because before training camp started, I kind of was indifferent about, okay, whatever, we're going to play a season here. Just get the season done, whatever. But now that everyone's in training camp, I got nothing else really going on to kind of look forward to. I'm excited now. I feel excitement for this hockey season starting up. And by the time this episode becomes available for download, we're going to only be about 6 days away from puck drop. So I'm actually pretty excited now. I don't know if your mood has changed at all or if you were already excited to begin with.
I was excited. I'm tentative just because of obviously the COVID situation still being what it is, but I am excited to have hockey back. It is at this time of year. It's the sport that I love the most. Baseball in the summer is the sport that actually soccer is, but it's hard. It was hard to get soccer for a while here in Canada after Sportsnet lost the rights, and I didn't want to buy DAZN, but we did, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's. I kind of fear like if the NHL ever goes to, I know they have about 6 or 7 years remaining on Sportsnet, but if the NHL ever ends up on DAZN, which I can kind of see, I kind of shudder because I don't want to. You're not just paying for the sport you want, right? You're paying for the whole package, which you're paying with Sportsnet and everything.
I mean, and to be honest, like the package isn't overly expensive. It's not outlandish. Like when it started, I was worried it was outlandish because I was only going to watch, at that point, it was just soccer. Like they didn't have the NFL and some of this other stuff. So I'm like, oh, this is not worth it. This past year, we got it as a family because my dad watches soccer. We both watch football. They also have MLB on there. So it's just like, okay, it kind of makes sense for us.
Now, are they providing their own production or are they streaming from like a local broadcaster?
Both.
Okay. All right.
So some games are produced. Some games are just from the actual rights holders, which I was never really understood. But
all right.
whatever.
Well, we'll see where I've never enjoyed the work Sportsnet has done with the NHL. I don't think they've just done the baseline job to keep it where it's at. They haven't progressed a broadcast or improved.
That's what I'm going into it for. Don't worry.
There you go, Nick. Save the day. How about let's talk about the other network, TSN, and their crown jewel, the World Junior Championships, and the U.S. coming out on top, World Junior Champions. They had the hiccup against Russia, I believe it was in the first game.
Game 1. Yep.
And then they came back with shutting out 4 of their next 6 or 7 games. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I watched the tournament. I watched the gold medal game, okay? I'll come right out and say that. But I did see a couple headlines it said USA surprises or upsets Canada in the final. And from everything I've heard, and even going into the tournament, it's not like the USA was an underdog. Like it was completely.
Yeah, they were.
You would say they were an underdog.
I would say we talked about it on the main show multiple times, and this tournament was Canada's to lose. They were by far the best team, and they showed it in the preliminary round, absolutely dominating every team they came up against, even the Finland game, which the scoreline wasn't abhorrent. They dominated that game. They just were toying with the Finns. And then you go into the preliminary rounds, they play Slovakia, who they dominated. They played Russia in the semis, who they dominated despite it being, 5-0 in the end with an empty net goal. The Canadians should have been able to dominate this American team, but the Americans played literally the perfect game plan against this version of the Canadian team. They got on the puck in the offensive end. They were winning the races to everything. The Canadians looked like they were playing not to lose. and you can't do that in a final. You have to go out to win. You can't play not to lose.
And we texted during the final game. So obviously I have a different opinion where I thought Canada went out there and they dominated the tournament, but it seemed like as soon as they were hit with a little bit of adversity, got behind
absolutely
the States, they couldn't deal with it. So to me, that doesn't make you the best team in the tournament. Again, I'm watching one game, right? So, but the U.S. just took Canada's game to them, took advantage of their situations, and kept Canada to the outside.
100%. And I think if you watch it back, like it's clear that that's what happened. And it was, I mean, gave the Americans full credit. Spencer Knight stood on his head and gave the Canadians nothing, especially at the end of the game when they were just piling chance after chance, and not like shots from the outside. Like the Canadians were actually getting really good chances in that third period, but Spencer Knight stood on his head and played really well. Trevor Zegras was the captain amongst captains right there and did exactly what he wanted to do. Yeah, I know he wasn't actually the captain. Wolf was the captain, but you know what I mean? Like he was the leader offensively for that American team and did exactly what you want a leader to do.
How about
the Canadians? You can't blame. Sorry, go ahead.
How about the captains? I mean, I know you wanted to keep going there, but I just got to touch on the captains handing out the medals. And I know it's a COVID precaution. Let's keep going with that. Like that was awesome.
I like it for the gold medal team. It was so hard to watch the silver medalist hand out those medals to his team. Like that's just hard to watch. I loved it for the Americans because you get to see the excitement. Because when they're getting it handed by the IIHF board of governors guy, they don't know this guy, they don't give a crap, but you get it handed from your captain or a teammate, right? Any teammate. You could have put like the third string goalie handing out the medals and they would have had probably the exact same reaction. It's great to see. I love to see that, but again, I don't think for the silver medalist they should keep it just because it was so hard to watch.
And the silver medal, the second place trophy as it was called, that was ridiculous.
Well, but they've been doing that forever, so I get it. You have to hand out the trophy, but it was just miscommunicated whether or not he had to take it from the podium and made it look really, really bad.
Who wants it? Like, why? What team after losing the gold medal game? Unless you're like,
I know, but just if you're going to do it, just admit to just tell the guy ahead of time, like, hey, when it comes up, just after the picture, take it to the bench. Like, I know you guys don't want it, but just take it to the bench, get it out of the way, and we'll continue the ceremony. Yeah, because no one wanted it. Obviously, we knew that.
Someone would have run through the post-game ceremony. The players have gone through so much that they're thinking of 100 other things, and they don't really care what the trophy procedure is.
So it was a mess. The one thing I need to say,
nobody
can blame Devin Levi, the goalie for Canada, for that game. That kid played great the entire tournament. One goaltender of the tournament, deservedly so, and he was awesome in that game. The two goals, the first one was a deflection from a guy who should never have been standing where he was. Someone needed to clear that guy out of the front of the net, and they didn't. I mean, full credit to Turcotte. He found his way to a perfect spot,
and he made a great move. Thing. Yeah, he zigzagged in and out, and made it look like he was going to bowl to the front of the net. And that caught the Canadian defender looking over his left shoulder.
Yeah.
And Turcotte recognized that and goes around his right shoulder. That was a great move.
And then the second goal was a weird bounce behind the net. I'll be honest, I actually missed the second goal and I didn't see any of the replay somehow. Apparently it was like a wraparound sort of thing off of a bad bounce behind the net.
Yeah, it comes the right side of the net, behind the net, bounces off the boards, kind of hits the mesh. And I'll disagree with you here. I thought the goalie wasn't, I just didn't think he was zoned in as I saw him the whole game. Like I loved his demeanor and when he caught the puck and there was no chance he was playing it, and before the whistle even blows he's turning around and getting some water. The first time I saw it, I was like, are you putting that in your own net? What are you doing? Whoa. But I just
he was dialed in. I agree with you there. I was just saying, like, it was a weird bounce. Yes, he probably still could have been focused a little bit more and made the save, but at the end of the day, a weird bounce cost him a one maybe mistake.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even call it a mistake.
It wasn't, and he didn't blow it for his team. So
no, not at all.
Canada just couldn't generate enough in the third, and they were kept to the outside. The Americans played a great defensive game. Spencer Knight was on top of his game. I texted you. I was like, Florida must be salivating almost to get him in there.
And then, Levi.
Yeah. Oh, right. They have Levi too. And get Bobrovsky out. Like, what did we do? We got
Spencer Knight's not going to play for at least 2 years at this point.
Oh, yeah. You want to get Florida winning too and get him into a winning environment. And so,
what about the other thing that you texted me, Ryan?
You know what? I wasn't a Bowen Byram, and then he goes and wins Canada's Player of the Game. I thought he.
I thought you were ripping me because he's the Colorado prospect. So I thought you were making a joke at my expense when you first texted me that.
No, I'm not. I'm not good with prospects. I'm not good with juniors. I had no clue who he was associated with. I literally thought Okay, I'm not a pro defenseman. I play beer league, and I have ideas on how defense should be played. And I just thought he made a lot of poor decisions. I don't know. I think you agreed with me. He had a terrible third period.
He had a terrible last 5 minutes of the third period for sure, which I think stuck in a lot of people's heads. The rest of the third, I didn't see anything big mistakes. I'm not saying he was perfect. I'm not saying that, but he didn't make any big errors that really caught my eye, and he was still flying up and down the ice. It was that last 5 minutes where you could tell he was tired. I mean, the guy played almost 26 minutes.
He was out there for the whole third period, which I had a problem with. I thought he was losing a lot of his energy. I saw him fall down a couple times. There was one where he just chucked the puck forward into a group of his own players when he had time, and it was because he was exhausted, and that's half on him and half on the coach. The coach keeps pushing him out there, but I didn't watch him all tournament, so I'm speaking out of turn, but I just thought the decision making in the final game was not the level you want to see for a top.
And I texted you. I'm like, through the first two periods, he was the best player on the ice for Canada by far, and he almost had 2 goals in the second by himself. So he was clearly the best player. The third period wasn't his best showing, but at the same time, not many Canadians really showed well in that final period.
No, they got shut down. So, you know what, Nick? Let's get to this Eastern Division because this is
if we must.
This is a very exciting division here, and I may argue.
What you call it?
What was it? The Mass Mutual I thought
it is Mass Mutual.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I've never heard of them. They're an American company, and we have our own Canadian division, so we don't really need to pay attention too much to this division. But
here we go through all. So the four divisions we have are the Mass Mutual East, the Scotia North, the Honda West, not the Discover Car. It's just the Discover Central.
Oh man, okay, I get it from the NHL that. This is the year they got to bring in revenue streams because no one's buying tickets this year.
Absolutely.
So I get it. It's cringy, but it needs to happen this year. So anyways, let's get to the Mass Mutual East. Nick, let's start with teams that will succeed. There are a few candidates here in this division for teams that will succeed.
Yep.
I'll start it off despite losing some pieces. Boston Bruins. They're just their team structure. It's the best in the NHL, and they have the potential to not suffer from the losses of Chara and Krug, which are the two big losses for them. We will see where Rask's headspace is at here. And you can't blame him, right? But it's a storyline that's gonna play out over the season. So there's potential to drop off here, but I have so much faith in their team system that I still believe that Boston is a team that's going to succeed. Plus, I think as a group, they have the best forward group in the NHL.
I wouldn't go as far as saying they have the best forward group in the NHL, but I will say they had the best goaltending last year outside of Vasilevsky. They gave up the fewest goals. They had the best system in the league pretty much by far. And let's not forget, they did put up 227 goals. That's no slight on their forward group. I don't think they're the overall 1 through 12 best forward group in the league, but they're pretty close. They're up there. They're top 3 probably in my opinion, but I don't think they're number 1.
The reason I say that is not because they have elite talent, but
I'm not saying they have. No, I agree.
As a group, everyone plays into their role and does it extremely well at a high level. So that's why I think
for me, it's still Tampa that does that best, and they have more elite talent at the top, through 1 through 6 than the Boston Bruins do. I'm saying Boston's still very good. They're top 3 at least, maybe top 2. But regardless, let's get back onto the topic. You bring up the Rask thing, and that could play a factor. But his headspace was messed up because of the bubble. Let's not deny that. So bringing the fact that he won't be in a bubble and he will be traveling home back and forth, that'll be fine for him. I think that will help him get back to a normal sort of style of play, so he should be fine. I have no real concern there. They also have Halak as a backup, so I mean they're pretty solid. And I'm not worried about them.
Halak becomes a 1B during the regular season because Boston gets it. Just get into the playoffs. Yeah, and then get going once you hit the playoffs.
Well, hold on, just get into the playoffs. They had the most points in the league last year.
Yeah, but
let's relax with just get into the playoffs.
Now, I would say last year, yes, they did, and they were almost on cruise control, and their cruise control is such a high elite level, and then with the break and then getting into the return to play with that round robin, they couldn't start up the engines again. They're a team that needs to flow, so
agreed.
They have the chance to flow here. Well, I'll give you a chance, Nick. Do you have someone different, a team that's going to succeed out of this division?
Yes, I do. I have a different team. I'm going with Philly. I think the Flyers, another year for Carter Hart. I mean, you had him in your top 5. I had him just outside my top 5. I think he's right there on goaltenders. I needed to see another year. I think this is the another year that I needed to see. And I think that Philly team is surprisingly good. They're gonna catch some teams with scoring, and they're going to catch some teams defensively because I think their defensive core is very, very solid, underrated solid.
Love Provorov.
They are underrated solid 1 through 6. When you have Provorov, Ghost, Sanheim, Myers, that's 1 through 4 right there. We haven't even got to 6, and then they have Eric Gustafsson, Justin Braun, and Robert Haig fighting for those last 2 spots. Listen, I mean, I know Sanheim's technically not signed yet, and I know Gustafsson, he is signed.
Yep.
He's up next year. So is Gustafsson, but that means 5 of those 7 guys are still returning the year after, and Sanheim's an RFA, which means he's not going anywhere. Let's be honest. So they're set up for the next few years defensively and offensively.
Couturier, I love Couturier. He's like the new Bergeron. I love Couturier.
But you have Giroux and Voracek, who are getting a bit older but still can produce. Yeah. You have Kevin Hayes, who's a solid second-line center.
Perfectly slotted.
Right? James Van Riemsdyk, who is a perfect second-line winger or a third-line winger if you need him to be. Travis Konechny, who he's going to be possibly a first-line winger at some point after Giroux and Voracek are gone, but right now he's slotted on that second line. Then you have Couturier, who's going to be the guy up the middle,
even strength, power play, PK. He can do it all. I love it.
Oh yeah, and let's not forget Joel Farabee, Oscar Lindblom,
Nolan Patrick is back this year.
Nolan Patrick,
now
Scott Lawton.
I don't expect
guys are stacked.
I don't expect big things from Patrick. Number 2 pick overall 4 years ago. Missed all of last season.
But he might be in a better position now, coming in as the true third line center. Whereas when he was coming in, they tried to make him a second line center. Yeah. I think he's a second line center at his peak, a third line center at the moment. So he might be placed perfectly. And if they have to, you drop him down to 4th and bring Scott Lawton up. There's really no real issue there.
They have great.
The biggest question will be is Carter Hart. Can Carter Hart do it again? Because he showed last year that he had the ability.
Yeah, for me, we discussed this in our power rankings, but this is the season where he shows everybody he's elite, and he helps take Philadelphia to this next level that you're discussing, a team that will succeed. I also want to throw Washington into that mix, and it's the same things over and over again. You're cringing like you're expecting them to drop. So
I'm expecting them to do worse than they did last year. Don't forget, they won the Metro Division last year.
Yeah,
I don't think they're top 2 this year.
Really?
So yes, they're dropping.
I don't have much change from them. I know the goaltending.
I have them
situation.
3rd.
Okay, we'll get to the prediction. So I like Washington. You like Washington, but less. So we'll get to that.
I have question marks with Washington. Let's put it that way.
All right, we'll get to Washington. Let's get to teams that will fail. And the red and black sore thumb sticking out here is the New Jersey Devils for me. Just looking at previews and quotes from the team, this is not a team that's ready to be in a headspace to succeed. Everything is still talking about building to the future. We want to get better. So there's an acceptance of losing. Not like they're going to go out there and go, oh, well, we lost. They're competitive guys. But there's still the doors open a crack for losing. And this team, I don't see them finishing anywhere but last. If I'm looking at this division, for me, there's 3 groups of teams, and the third group at the bottom is New Jersey. all by themselves. I know they brought in Corey Crawford to play goal. Lindy Ruff is the new coach, but I just don't see enough change and enough promise from this team to make them anything but basement dwellers. I know Heischer and Hughes and people are expecting more from them, but maybe they're just not more. I expect more from Hughes than Heischer. I think Heischer might be a bust at this point, but we'll see.
Hughes is also 3 years younger than Heischer. Give him a break. He's been in the league for 1 year.
But as a number one pick, that's still a pretty disappointing.
But he got hurt.
I know, but it's still a disappointing season. You wanted to see more flash, more. You wanted to be more impressed by Jack Hughes, and but
he got hurt.
I know he got hurt. Anyways, New Jersey's my team to fail.
Okay, and I'll build on the New Jersey conversation. I think they have a lot of really good young pieces that are going to try to form into a team this year, which will be interesting. You mentioned Heischer. Let's add in Hughes. Let's also add in Pavel Zacha, Jesper Ballquist, Michael McLeod, Kukanen. I cannot say this name. Sharon Gochev.
Sure, sounds good.
But Nathan Bastian is another one. I only know him because he played on the Mississauga Steelheads, and he's actually a solid player. So if they can get him and McLeod on a third line, Kokanen, that could actually be a good third line because Bastian and McLeod played in Mississauga together. They know each other, so that could help. And then you have to figure out your top two lines. And the top two lines are going to be the issue for sure. They don't have a whole lot of top two line talents. They probably have some future top two line talents, but they're just not there yet. With Heischer, he's going to be the second line center, probably behind Travis Zajac, just because that's how it will probably go.
It feels
and then
like
you'll
a
have
lot of
Palmieri, Gusev, Janssen, and Wood on the wings. Probably.
I like Wood, and I remember his dad, Randy Wood, playing for the Leafs too. So, but it just, I totally hear what you're saying, and I can't really identify with the players you're mentioning. Like I mentioned, I'm not great with the prospects. I know
I'm a prospect guy.
Yeah, I know the players that can make a name, but it just at this time sounds like you're selling hope rather than selling wins. And they hope that these players can bring them wins. They don't know that these players can bring them wins.
I got another addition to add. Okay. Let's look at their defense, and I'm going to name off the 6 players that are most likely going to be their 6 defensemen. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you tell me what you think of this as overall, not one by one, overall. Okay. So they have PK Subban. Mm-hmm. They picked up Ryan Murray from Columbus, which I think was a very good pickup.
I like that pickup. Yeah.
They have Dmitry Kulikov and Damon Severson on the second line. Both solid defensemen, probably second line players anywhere, but maybe first line on some crappy teams, but very solid second line players. And then they have Will Butcher and Connor Carrick as your third line. Overall, their defense actually isn't that bad. It's probably the strong point of the team, which isn't necessarily a bad thing to have. As we talked about in the Central Division, lots of teams build around a strong defensive core. And then you have Mackenzie Blackwood, who has the potential to be an elite goaltender, backing up Corey Crawford. Not necessarily this year, but overall, I think he has the potential to be an elite goaltender. He's not there yet. Don't get me wrong. But having Corey Crawford, someone who's been there, done that, as not an elite goaltender necessarily, like Crawford was very, very good. I would never have actually called Crawford elite at any point in his career. But having him there to train Mackenzie Blackwood, as opposed to Corey Schneider, who has never been to past the second round, I think. It's a different headspace. I think this year is going to be a good building year for the Devils. Yes, they will finish at the bottom of the division, if not then second last in the division. But they have some very good pieces to build off of for the future.
There's reasons for optimism, and they have the chance to prove everybody wrong, and that should be a rallying point for them. I hear the names you laid out for the D. I hear a couple of guys who are number 2s to me. And then PK and Murray may even slide down to a 3. And then I hear the rest of the guys being 4 if they're having a good week, 4 or 5 type guys. And I just don't know if there's enough there to help them succeed, especially in the division they're in this year. So,
they're going to be screwed in the division.
So, which at this point they're playing with house money, and you can go in there and tell all these kids that the world outside this dressing room doesn't believe in you, and you got a lot to prove. So that's what they're going to do this year. And like I mentioned, they're out for they're hoping for wins rather than.
I'm gonna throw another team in quickly who are not going to succeed. Buffalo, like It sucks to say. I know you're wearing the Buffalo Slug, but
I'm just wearing it because
I want this team to succeed. Does that make any sense? Like, I want them to succeed, but they won't. They just don't have enough. They have some very good pieces. Let's not kid ourselves. Rasmus Dahlin is a stud.
Yeah.
Ristolainen, I think, is a very good defenseman. I like Montour. I like Jake McCabe. I like Henry Yokuharu. I think their defense is very good.
I think
they have some very good pieces up front too, with Eichel, Skinner, Taylor Hall. They brought in Eric Stahl to be the second line center as well, which could be very interesting because he played with Skinner in Carolina. Let's not forget that. So that's going to be the two combos that you're looking at are Hall and Eichel. And then Skinner and Stahl. Those will be your top two lines with one other person playing on either side. Most likely Reinhardt on the top line and Okposo on the second line.
And then they just announced recently that Gergensen's out for the season. So
Gergensen's out, but you go past those guys, and then you also have Victor Olofsson, who was lighting it up as a rookie last year. Cody Eakin, who is the everywhere player in the NHL, literally has, I think, played everywhere.
I like that defense. I like that ad in a 3-4-5 spot. I'm okay with that ad. And don't ever believe that he's going to shut down everyone, but he can play a chunk of minutes. I'm not talking about a huge chunk.
Yeah.
And minimize mistakes. And I think that's good. So you're talking about Buffalo. I see you put them in the failure spot, and that's fine. I put them in the chance to surprise people. It doesn't mean they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to surprise people like you who are expecting them to fail. I think they have improved. Now, the big issue is they're not better than Boston, the Islanders. I think they're right there with the Rangers, and injuries and just your general play or getting in a groove could really decide who finishes ahead there. And they're not better than Philly, Pittsburgh, or Washington. So they fall.
That's why I have them in seventh.
So I don't know if they would. I mean, you're saying they're failing and seventh is not succeeding.
No, I said that they weren't going to do well. I did not say they were failing. Well, if we're talking about a team that's failing, I can get into that as well. But I said they weren't going to do well.
All right, and I have them as a surprise team. So, any surprises, or is this a straightforward division?
Yeah, I have a surprise team to do bad.
Okay.
That everyone else seems to be picking to do well. I have zero faith in them, and that's the Penguins.
Interesting. I thought about this. Go ahead.
Okay, so I see that they have talent. There's no doubt about it. When you have Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin on your team, you obviously have talent. The question becomes, outside of Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Jake Gensel, who else do you have on the offense? They don't have any.
They're hoping for Kapanen. And right now
Kapanen is playing top line minutes with Sidney Crosby and Jake Gensel at the moment based off line combination.
He's having visa issues as we record. So
exactly. So he might not even be there.
He hasn't even gotten into camp yet and gelled with the guys.
So let me put this. I'm going to read off what Cap Friendly has as their 4 forward lines at the moment. Okay, so the top line is Gensel, Crosby, Kapanen. The second line is Jason Zucker, Evgeny Malkin, and Brian Rust. Yes, Brian Rust is a top 6 player apparently.
He played well with Crosby apparently.
I understand that, but he's a top 6 player on no other team other than the Pittsburgh Penguins at the moment.
They're trying to find the winning formula. So go ahead.
Third line is Jared McCann, Mark Jankowski, and Evan Rodriguez. And then the fourth line is Colton Sevior, Teddy Bluger, and Brandon Tanev.
There's names almost from within there. I know Jankowski's not a name from within, but that's what they have to do, right? They have to believe in their own internal guys, pick up fringe guys, and try and hope that Crosby, Malkin flow together.
And then as I flip that to the defense, I'll read the defensive 6 off as well, and they're It's not great. I mean, Chris Letang is a very good player still, but he's 33.
Yeah.
Is he still going to be the same Chris Letang he was last year? Is he still going to be the same Chris Letang he was 2 years ago? I don't know. Brian Dumoulin is his pair at the moment. Marcus Peterson and John Marino are your second pair, which is fine. I have no problem with that pair. I still think I need to see a little bit more from them to be confident in them, but I have no problem with it. And then your last pair is Michael Matheson and Cody Ceci.
Cody Ceci's ew. I literally wrote down on my notes here, Cody Ceci, ew. But
it's, I mean, Cody Ceci is fine if he's playing third line minutes where he wasn't doing that on the Leafs.
No, they put him with Morgan Riley in top line minutes on the Leafs. And
then the biggest thing for me is the goaltending. And we have seen both Tristan Jarry and Casey DeSmith succeed at the NHL level as backups, as fill-in starter.
Well, Jarry had 20-plus games last year.
I know, but that was because Murray got hurt.
Or maybe it was 30-plus games and 20-plus.
But he wasn't supposed to be the starter. He was the fill-in starter because Murray got hurt. Now it's on these two. And Casey DeSmith is 29, so he's a little bit older. Tristan Jarry's 25. Like, is he ready to be a number one? We will find out. And I think that will be the deciding factor in whether or not the Pittsburgh Penguins do well. I just don't see enough from the roster that tells me that they're going to be third or fourth in this division, like everyone seems to be predicting, and it's baffling to me. I think they will be sixth.
Very interesting. So with that in mind, I believe in Tristan Jarry. I think from what I've been hearing with analysts, Mike Matheson could be a nice pickup. He could also be...
I think Mike Matheson will be a very good player.
Yeah.
I just need to see something from him. He played 59 games last year, had 20 points. He was fine. It just wasn't enough to scream, I'm a top defender. I know he's playing third pairing, but he has to carry Cody Ceci, so he actually has to be a top defender.
Let's see if he can build that up. So let's take a break, Nick. We'll come back and we'll get through our predictions here because this sounds like it's going to be a very interesting rundown for us. We'll be right back. We're back. 20 minutes on ice. We are running through our Mass Mutual East Division predictions here. And we've gone through teams that will succeed, failures, and surprising teams, both good and bad. It's now time to lay it down, our predictions. Nick, let's start at the bottom with the teams. You know, let's go two teams at a time here.
Literally lay it down.
We're gonna lay it down for you folks. I have New Jersey finishing dead last in this division. I don't know. Are you the same, Rude? You got Buffalo there, or who do you have dead last?
I think I have New Jersey dead last and Buffalo seventh.
Okay. I have the same thing, and I think there's going to be a significant gap there. Buffalo is in my... I've mentioned that I have 3 tiers of teams in this division, and Buffalo is easily in tier 2, but still finishes 7th in this division for me.
Yeah, I don't think it will be as big of a stretch as you think. I think New Jersey will get better goaltending than they've had the last couple of years, so that will help. So I think they'll keep it close. I honestly think the bottom 5 teams in this division will be within 12 points. Personally, but I still have these 2 teams at the bottom.
And I do too. And coming in number 6 for me is the New York Islanders. I do not like where they're headed right now. I think Barzal will be there eventually. Lou Lamoriello just kind of gets his way. He's not going to put up with this, but we'll see if Barzal wants to dig in and maybe this severs some sort of relationship. But I just think I know they made the semifinals last year. I look at their roster. I just can't believe in them. Their defense is okay, but they did lose Boychuk. That's a big chunk, and Devin Taves is out as well. So I just not enough gains there. And the losses for a team that needs structure, similar to what the Bruins have. I just think there's too many losses to overcome, and so I have them finishing 6th in this division.
Yeah, I have, as I said, I think I have Pittsburgh finishing 6th, but I have the Islanders finishing 5th. If we're going to go 2 teams at a time, I might as well just continue my trend. The Islanders have some decent depth up front, but it's a lot of depth. Like their top line at the moment, because Barzal is not signed, is Anders Lee, JG Pajot, and Jordan Eberle, which I mean isn't terrible. It's definitely not the worst top line in the league by far.
No,
but it's not right. Like without Barzal, there's clearly something lacking on that top line.
It's not dynamic.
And then the second line is Bolivier, Nelson, and Bailey. That's a solid second line, but again, nothing. There's something missing from it, because one of those guys from the top line will drop down to that second line.
It's like really doing well. You're getting, B+ consistently. These are what these lines sound like. But there's always that team out there that has A+, an A+ line, or an A+ D unit, or an A+ goalie. That's going to defeat you.
Different though for me. I actually really like their defensive core. I think they're a smart defensive core. I know they're a little bit young with the losses that they've had with Johnny Boychuk moving on, Johnny Boychuk being injured and Devin Toews moving.
Yeah,
but at the same time, like I still think they're a very solid lineup 1 through 6, even though they are young. I mean, Noah Dobson played in 34 games last year, and he looked good, not great. Like I'm not saying he looked like, oh, this guy's going to be great, but he's going to be on the third pair with Thomas Hickey, which Hickey has shown great flashes in the Islander system, so he should be fine. Mayfield, Leddy on your second line is, again, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
No.
You're not gonna send them out there and be like, oh no, we can't. We're like look away. Like they're fine. They'll be fine. And then Pulak and Pelech are, again, fine. Like there's nothing really wrong with their team. So my big question is the goaltending. I have no clue
Varlamov,
what to expect from Varlamov or Sorokin.
Yeah, the guy coming from the KHL. So I think what this really falls on is, can Barry Trotz coach them? Can he coach this team and coach them up? Because they are a good team, but there's going to be teams that have better nights and better players and better situations that might be able to overcome this team.
I think Barry Trotz has a better chance to coach this team than the Penguins coach has to coach the Penguins.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which is why I have them finishing ahead of the Penguins.
Okay, so.
Ow, I just pulled my headphones. That hurt.
So I'll go over. We're doing 2 teams at a time here, sort of. I have Pittsburgh at 4. I guess I'm just old and I'm a Pittsburgh believer. Similar to, I find it hard to believe in Arizona, even though they've shown me success. We talked about that previously. But so maybe because of my age and I grew up with Pittsburgh, or I was younger when Pittsburgh was doing well, maybe I just believe in them blindly that way. So I have Pittsburgh at 4 just based on past experiences. I really like the Rangers, but I have them at 5 because this division is so good. I like Zibanejad. They have Lafreniere. I expect Kakko to get a lot better. Panarin, I mean, Hart Trophy nominee. This guy could win the Hart Trophy. That's how good he is. I like Ryan Strome. Questions on defense, and then I love their goaltending tandem. Young goaltending tandem that's just going to fill in the void for each other. When one falls, the next one can step in and be a short-term stopgap. Yeah,
I think you're right with the goaltending for sure. Is that Shesterkin is I'm going to say the number 1 right now going into the season, but Georgiev showed that he can come in and play. Like there's not really a concern there. Their defense is, their top end of their defense is extremely young. Their oldest top 4 player is Jacob Trouba at 26. And I know that sounds funny saying Jacob Trouba is 26 because it feels like he's been in the league for 10 years.
Yeah.
He hasn't. But D'Angelo, Trouba at the top is a good pair. All politics aside, they're a good pair. And then your second line is Ryan Lindgren and Adam Fox. And I really like those two. They are very young, 22 years old, both of them. Mm-hmm. But it's good. And then you have another journeyman in the NHL, Jack Johnson, who I swear has been on 8 teams as well. But he's a solid third line pairing defenseman, kind of like Cody Ceci. A little bit better than Ceci. Not much. Like Jack Johnson makes mistakes, but he's a little bit better than Ceci. So having him on your third line, fine, do what you got to do. And then Brandon Smith as the other guy, yeah, that's easy. I can take that all day. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they put their forward combos together. That's my biggest thing right now.
They still lost Mark Stahl on the back end. He went to Detroit, and I think that that'll hit him. I'm not saying he's the star that he used to be or the workhorse that he used to be, but it's kind of like a glue foundation guy. And let's not forget they also had to let Lundqvist go. And I think the fact that he slowly faded away at the end there kind of
made that easier.
Yeah, eases the whole losing a foundation piece there, because a combination of losing Lundqvist and Stahl suddenly really could crumble that team. But they could excite, and I probably should have put them in my surprise column. I think they can surprise some teams. So I have them at 5, and you have the Rangers at 4. Did you?
I have them at 4. Yeah.
Okay, so you have the Rangers in. I have the Rangers just missing, but. So I have Pittsburgh at 4, Rangers at 5, Islanders at 6, and Buffalo at 7. And I was looking at these teams. I didn't want to believe in Buffalo, but I kind of like some of the excitement there. If things go well for them, I think they could compete for that number 4 playoff spot. I don't like their chances. But then, so Pittsburgh, Islanders, Rangers, Buffalo, those teams could kind of fall anywhere in that 4 to 7 range. I mean,
I think, in my opinion, I think any team from the 4 to 8, so I'll throw New Jersey in. If they get hot and they all play up to their potential, any one of those teams could be number 4. Like the Devils have high potential. It might not be for this year, but they have high potential. But if all, 23 players, if all 23 players on the roster play up to their potential, heck yeah, they could be in the 4th spot by the end of the season. I could see that.
We'll see.
I just think the Rangers have the best chance to play up to their potential out of all of the teams.
All right.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. Let's get to, we got the same top 3 teams here. Let's see, let's just dive right in. Let's see where we have.
Okay, you do that.
I have Philly at 3, Boston at 2. I originally had them at 1, but I had to scratch them off because of the Chara and Krug losses. And where did Chara go? Washington. I got them at number 1. I am a big believer in Washington this year. So Washington 1, Boston 2, Philly 3 for me.
I have Philly and Washington flipped.
Okay. So
I have Washington 3, Boston 2. I have Philadelphia winning the division, which makes me sick to say.
I can see it, though. Like Washington, Boston, Philly, just like I said, those 4 to 7 teams, for me, these 1 to 3 teams, they could finish in any order in 1, 2, 3, and I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah.
Every one of these teams has the ability to win the division.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to goaltending for me across these 3 teams. I think Hart will be able to backstop the Philly team. I think the Philly team is a little bit better than the Boston team defensively, so I think that's why I have them at number 1. Boston is 2 because Rask is going to hold them into so many games, and Halak will hold them into so many games. And then when it comes to Washington, I don't know what Ilya Samsonov is going to really be, because he was the backup to Holtby last year. But he got into 26 games and had a .255 goals against average. But I also think that the defense got worse from last year for Washington. I know they added Chara, but Chara's 43, and he is not the Chara that was dominant 3 years ago. He's not.
No, but I think I would say he gets that, and I like great positional play. His size really helps.
Absolutely.
His size helps him with that. So I think it's the situation Washington is going to work for him, except I have a little bit of concern with I believe it was Doug McLean and maybe even Ray Ferraro who reported that the reason why he went to Washington is because they promised him a bigger role than what Boston was offering.
Well, Boston was going to sit him in back-to-backs. They weren't going to let him play back-to-back games.
I have no problem with that approach, but obviously
but basically what Washington said was, you will play every game.
Okay.
And he's like, perfect, that's what I want.
There you go. All right, so that's fine. So, and that's why he went to Washington. So, that eases my fears, and I'm more certain that Washington's going to win this division. You got Philly, and we'll be able to come back to our division predictions here at the end of the year, because it's going to be early May. It's still could be fresh.
Like 5 months, dude.
Yeah, it still could be fresh on the mind.
The other thing about Washington is that outside of the top line and maybe a bit of the second line, I really don't know where they're going to get scoring from. Right? Like Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Wilson will score. Like, there's no doubt about that. The second line of Rana, Backstrom, and Oshie will most likely score. After that, the next highest point getter from last season was Lars Eller, who had 39 points in 69 games.
I just like where their players are slotted. I think they have, and I forgot to mention this. Peter Laviolette's coming in as a new coach there. And it's not like, oh, let's dip our toes in the water. This guy gets in, gets going, can be tough on players, but it's a straightforward approach. And in Washington, it's all not let's win the division. They don't care if they win the division. They want to win the Stanley Cup. Now in this division, it's almost becoming clear that you got to get that home ice advantage. Like that's going to become important if you get to a 7th game in that first round or second round. But Washington's cup or bust at this point.
Yeah. The other thing is I really don't know who's going to be backing up Samsonov in net if he has some problems.
Yeah, there's a name. I don't.
Well, it was Lundqvist.
Yeah, and I think.
And then it was Schneider. Because didn't they bring Corey Schneider in?
No, he's on the island.
Oh, he's on the island. Sorry.
Yeah, Varlamov and Schneider.
Yeah, so there's a chance that it's Phoenix Copley.
Yeah.
or there's one more name, Vitek Vanerchek.
Now, do they go out and pick someone up? That's
Marc-Andre Fleury. Oh, no, they picked up Craig Anderson. That's who it was. Anderson was the one who signed to a pro contract.
There you go. I didn't even see that. And we've heard what's happening with the pro contracts and
pro
tryout, and everyone's and that may legitimately be a pro tryout, but also could be signed.
Legitimately.
All right, Nick, that is our rundown of the Mass Mutual East Division. Are you ready to fire up the randomizer?
I guess so.
Here we go. Today we are playing Who Am I? Who Am I? This is essentially 20 questions. Nick, I'm going to put you on the clock. You get to think of someone while I'm explaining the rules here. I have 20 questions to think of Nick's hockey personality. So it could be player, management, broadcast, someone that is famous that has to do with hockey. I have 20 questions to figure this out. And usually I do terribly at this. Nick has been doing exceptionally well since we've been playing this game recently. I think the last time we played it, I had Roberto Luongo. We might have been doing our goalie rankings and Roberto Luongo, and you got it with like 12 or 11 questions.
Yeah, 13 questions left.
Yeah, so I'm in tough here, but I will count my questions here and how many I've taken. Nick, do you have someone in mind?
I do.
All right, here we go.
Hold on. Do you want you get your clue? Would you like the clue or would you not like your clue?
Oh no, I'm going to take that, Nick. I need a clue. I need some help.
All right. The clue is 2-time cup winner.
2-time cup winner. So I'm going to take my first question. Is that 2-time cup winner as a player?
Yes.
Okay, good. Former player?
No.
Current player. Okay. 2-time cup winner, current player. Do we have a forward? Is it a forward? No. Not a forward. Okay. Is it a goalie?
No.
Okay. D-man, current D-man, 2-time cup winner. I was thinking big guy, but he's only won once. Current player. Okay. Does he play in the Mass Mutual East Division?
Currently, yes.
That's all I want. Yeah, currently, does he play in the Mass Mutual? Okay, so this is going well. I've limited down to 8 teams. All right, now I can run down teams. No, that's not an issue. Looking at, geez, now I'm blanking on players here. Thinking Letang, but I can't remember if he was there in 2009. Does he wear a number in the 50s?
No.
Okay. So
hold on. What's his current number? I don't know what his current number is.
Siri, tell me what his current number is.
He changes it.
I just want.
I'm going with no.
Okay, so this is
he does not. He does not wear a number in the 50s.
Okay,
no, sorry.
That was me asking if it was Letang without actually saying is it.
I figured you could have just asked if it was Letang. You would have gotten the same answer.
Okay, it can't be. Wow, you're really stumping me. Well done, Nick.
I know.
Okay. Does he play currently in the New York, New Jersey region?
New York, New Jersey region? No, he does not.
Okay. So I've asked 7 questions so
Currently, he does not play in the
Perfect.
New York, New Jersey region.
See, now I'm blanking on all I'm on the spot, so I'm blanking on all the guys we just talked about here. Jeez. 2-time current player, 2-time cup champion, current player. He's playing in the Mass Mutual East Division. I've narrowed it down to Washington.
You've narrowed it down so much.
To Washington, Boston, Philly, Pittsburgh, or Buffalo. Who has a 2-time cup champion? All right, let me examine Washington here because they've won the cup.
Okay.
Who do they have on the back end? They got Carlson. They got Chara.
I'm not telling you.
I know. I'm trying to. Chara's only a 1-time cup champion. He hasn't won it twice. And who's their other guy? See, I'm completely blanking on this. Is he a 1 or 2 defenseman, like a top pair guy?
Not currently.
Not currently. Okay, good. This is good to know. And how come I didn't make any notes on him? Because I wasn't prepared for this kind of stuff. Is Cody Ceci a 2-time cup champion? Can't be. Impossible. Oh, okay.
This is fun for me. This is fun for me.
Who does Boston have left? They got their own homegrown guys, so they can't possibly be a 2-time cup champion there. Philly. Oh, who's Andy Green playing with? The Islanders. We already eliminated them. This is not going well, Nick.
This is fun for me. This is great. This is fun.
Jack Johnson. He's not a 2-time cup champion.
How many questions do you have left, Ryan?
I got 12 questions. I've asked 8. I've asked about 100 internal questions. They don't count, though. Okay, I'm going to have to just break it down here. Does he play for the Buffalo Sabres right now?
No.
No. Sorry to do this. Does he play with the Pittsburgh Penguins right now?
No.
Okay.
Currently, he does not play with Buffalo or Pittsburgh.
Oh, well, there's 3 teams left in the Mass Mutual East Division.
Currently, he does not play for Buffalo or Pittsburgh.
Does he play for the Philadelphia Flyers?
He does not play for the Philadelphia
Okay,
Flyers.
I have asked 11 questions. Does he play for the Washington Capitals?
He does not play for the Washington Capitals.
So he plays for the
Or,
Boston.
sorry, no, he does play for the Washington Capitals.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just on no. He does play for the
Plays
Washington
for the
Capitals,
Washington
right?
Capitals. Who is there on their team? Chara, Carlson.
Very good. You named the 2 biggest
Yeah.
players on their defensive core. I'm proud of you.
I don't want to use the internet to cheat here. I could easily use the internet to cheat. Come on, man. I've seen this in my head 100 times.
I am waiting for this. Might be the first one that you just legitimately give up on because you can't name any more players.
I really, without cheating,
You might have to just give up. This could be entertaining for me.
Nick, start naming off defensemen who are not this guy. I give up. I'm not going to get the guy because I don't know. All I can think of right now is Carlson.
You want me to name defensemen on Washington who are not this guy?
And it's not Dmitry Orlov. He's a 1-time cup champion.
Okay, so you got Carlson, Orlov.
Carlson.
Brendan Dillon is also not this guy.
He's never won the cup.
Nick Jensen is also not this guy.
Never heard of him.
Trevor Van Riemsdyk is also not this guy.
TVR, not that guy. Is this guy even a regular?
Yes.
Why am I not thinking of him? All right, hit me, Nick. Who is it?
Hold on. There's one more defenseman technically signed on cap friendly because they have 8. It's Jonas Slegenthaler. He is not this guy either.
I don't even think he's won a game.
Are you ready for the name?
Hit me, Nick.
Are you conceding though? I have to make sure you're conceding.
You have won this round. You have bested me.
Okay.
I did not do enough research on the Washington Capitals defenseman, and
as soon as I say it, you're gonna hit.
I'm just smash my face through my desk.
One of my former favorite top prospect players to play in the NHL games, former Edmonton Oiler
Give
and
me one
Pittsburgh
name. Oh,
Penguin.
I did know him. I wrote him down right here.
Justin Schultz.
And he won 2 with Pittsburgh?
He won 2 with Pittsburgh.
Remember he didn't want to sign with Anaheim? And then he was like this massive free agent rookie, and he went to Edmonton.
Yep.
Didn't work
He
out
won
there.
2 cups with Pittsburgh in his first 2 seasons in Pittsburgh.
I wrote him down in my notes, so I did do enough research on the Washington defense.
How did you not see that?
And then it didn't register. I didn't even look at my notes for this exercise, and it didn't even register with me that he was in Washington. Like, I wrote down his name, so I knew he was somewhere that wasn't Pittsburgh anymore. I just could not remember.
That's why I had to check on the number because I'm like, what fucking number did he have now?
What did he?
He's number 2.
2, and he was like 4 in Edmonton.
He was 4 in Pittsburgh, 19 in Edmonton.
in Edmonton. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's well done, Nick. Well done. You got me, and I feel ashamed that I couldn't bring
Justin Schultz is one of my favorite players to use in the NHL games because he always gets really good, and he's stupid cheap to get in trades.
I remember
6th round pick.
So 10 years ago when I was into the games like you are and recognizing those players, Devin Setaguchi was always,
he was awesome.
That player. Yeah. And
I love Devin.
And also I played with the Leafs, and I could make Matt Stajan into a superstar too. So
fun story. My mom knows his aunt, so I've actually talked to him once.
Very cool.
Matt Stajan's one of the nicest NHL players you will meet.
Oh, it seems like it. And that was the first player. Him and Rick Nash were both born in my birth year, 1983. Nash is older than me. Stajan is like a month and a half younger than me. And then when he retired, it's like, oh, a guy who's younger than me just retired from the NHL. That's really super weird. And then
See, I was on the other end of that scale. When people my age or younger than me were getting drafted, that's when you're just like, oh, okay, I'm older.
I remember that. Yeah, I had the same issue. There was Rick Nash's draft when he went number 1 overall to Columbus, and it's like,
it was McKinnon for me.
Okay, all right. It's all like, yeah, all these players have, they're just as old as me, and look what they're doing, and I'm stuck flipping burgers at McDonald's, which.
And now you're stuck doing podcasts with me.
All right, there's the horn to bring to an end this 20 Minutes on Ice. We will be back on Tuesday with our final division preview, the Scotia North Division, held on to the Canadian Division until the end.
Of course we did.
That's the main division for us, and hopefully for all of you listening too. Be sure to subscribe to the show and give us a like on YouTube now. Follow me on Twitter at Ryan_H16. Follow Nick at Nick McVicker. And the show's on Twitter and Instagram at 20 Minutes on Ice. Head on over to garagedoorsports.com and find us under the shows tab. We'll be back next week. Thank you for listening, everybody. Goodbye.